Based, Professor Mujib talked about it, where a lot of these rule based are used into firewall and other network related systems, where we have a deny first, and then we individually go in and add inclusion. Next is biometrics. It's everybody else talked about it. I'm gonna skip, but advantage is hard to forge, and you don't have to remember any password. Disadvantage can be expensive because all the biometric equipments are specialized equipment that are expensive, and reset, you cannot reset your fingerprint, right? So reset is a problem. Uh, the lot of folks worry about surveillance and privacy and all this. That can be an issue as well. Other disadvantages, people who are fan of Hollywood movies, we saw in the movies they cut the thumb and use the thumb to access lockers and stuff like that, right? Anyhow, single sign-on, everybody else talked about it, but I'll go to the advantages. It improves the user experience, so you don't have to go and log into each subsystems all the time and so forth. And also, you can have roles embedded into it. So in one subsystem, you may have write permission, but another subsystem, you may only have read permission. So there are other advantages like that. Uh, uh, Disadvantages, single point of failure, you know. So this is one of the questions I had. So I was looking into it and I saw that the subsystems are using a public certificate and decrypting the token. So the question is, what if someone else, uh, catch hold of that public certificate? Uh, and so forth. So, we can discuss that in the class.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? You have to keep it protected. That's the thing. That's what
So
you have to
when
have. You need to put controls in place for that too.
so let's say if you log into an email server that is part of a single sign-on, you cannot see the public certificate unless you're an admin, right?
Yes,
Okay,
you can also. Yeah.
stuff like that. Okay.
Hmm.
Logical access control. Everybody else talked about it. We talked about tokens, ACLs, and all these. Um, the violation, I thought Sarosh Bhai's table was wonderful. Uh, Violations are data breaches, unauthorized data modification, regulatory penalties, reputational, we all discuss in the class, financial loss, because if you don't have the reputation, you will lose customer and you will incur financial loss. Essential mitigation, least privilege that we talked about earlier with role-based or rule-based. Implementing MFA, we talked about that earlier. Um, Regular reviews, everybody else talked about it. Strong password policies where uppercase, lowercase, @ special characters are implemented. And of course, monitoring. We have to have monitoring on all those, top of everything.
And password rotations, right? You have to make sure you do password rotations too.
Yes, password policy. Yeah. I didn't put that. Okay. Effects of breaches in access control. Everybody else talked about it, but we can have service disruption, uh, customer confidentiality lost. Everybody is worried about using Equifax nowadays, right? Equifax. Um, Integrity loss, we talked about it. Legal, we can have HIPAA fines that are in place by the government. Loss of consumer trust, like I was saying, everybody tries to avoid Equifax. I think all the crate companies, they implement a lock feature where you can go in and lock it yourself and stuff like that, right? Because of that one incident. Obviously, financial damages, lawsuits, and so forth. And where attackers move literally through systems gaining over, so basically this can cause other issues as well, where they can have greater system the hacker can have greater system access and so forth. So that's all I got.
Excellent, brother. Very good. Very good. Very good. Well, brother Abu.
Faisal helped here as well on this one.
Okay. Very good.
Mine.
Good job. Good job. Who did not present today? Who wants to go next? Subhan, brother Abu.
Sir, I'm gonna be back in the US on the 17th. I'm currently in Saudi Arabia and I'm traveling, so I could not do the presentation this time. Sorry.
But yeah, make sure next week, make sure you have the presentation. You haven't done the presentation yet, Abu. I'm sorry, Subhan. I want to see some presentations from you too, because this is all learning for all of us, right? So it will be beneficial for you. The more you
The
do,
next
the better.
presentation will be
Yeah,
done, inshallah.
yeah. Make sure you, inshallah, do it. And brother Abu, I haven't seen your presentation too yet.
Yeah,
You have
I'm
your
kind of
presentation?
behind the class because of some issues I have been having accessing the models.
Okay,
I just finished resolving them with Dr. Mohammed today.
okay,
So I'm still reading to catch up with the class. So I'm kind of behind. So just bear
okay.
with me.
Yeah,
Be good.
just please make sure that this is for your advantage. You will, the more you do research, the more you understand is better for you, right? So just coming and sitting in the class and listening and going away, it's not going to help you. So this is for your benefit. We are doing these things, okay? So make sure everybody who haven't presented yet, next week I want everybody to present, please. Make sure you have at least like, you don't have to go in that detail, just like brief presentations should be enough to like 5-10 minutes presentation. Okay. Okay, so before we move on, I want to ask all of you, the ones basically who presented, you can answer afterwards, but this is, this question is for the folks who have not presented today. Let them answer this. So what is the basically, what is the purpose of this access control in computing environments? Why do you think we need access control in computing environments? You have listened to all of this, right? So can you, anybody who haven't presented, tell me what is the purpose of putting access controls in the computing environment? What are we trying to achieve by that?
Okay, I'll go with that first.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would say the purpose of implementing access control is to make sure that the right persons who are supposed to have access to data and information are actually the ones that can have access to the system. And then it avoids violating data. I mean, keep the core principles of data, tenets of data or information which violating integrity. I mean, confidentiality, integrity, and data availability. So, a weak access control implementation can put all these tenets into danger, and then the company or an organization can be in a bad shape, resulting in reputational damage, legal fines, and all that. All this, all this due to the lack of implementation of the proper access control measures. So this is so far the little I can say about.
Very good. How about brother Faisal? Why do you think access control is required for the computing environments?
It is needed to make sure that the person who has access to the data is the right person, and what they can see is actually according to their role in the organization. It also keeps the privacy of the data. That is also an implication. Unauthorized access, not only from outside, but also inside the company. So, though, obviously, data privacy is paramount, whether it is from somebody within or without.
Very good. Very good. Subhan, do you agree with the brothers, or you have different
Yes,
thoughts?
yes, I agree. This is really important because a lot is on the line. You know, your brand image is on the line. You have to protect your privacy, and when You don't want unauthorized access to your data, because it can cost a lot to recover, and sometimes it cannot even recover fully. So you have to spend a lot on the security.
Very good, very good. So, anybody have any other comments they want to make before we move on? Because access control is one of the key major components. We need to understand this. So basically, access control is about giving access to authorized users, okay? And those users only can access the necessary resources. It
I
doesn't.
have an example here.
Yeah, go ahead, brother.
So one support analyst
Mhm.
at Bell South, uh, he he had delete permission on a table, and he was learning SQL, and he was not supposed to use this SQL navigator, but he was trying to delete one record, but he deleted like 200,000 record, and
Wow,
he didn't know rollback, or he didn't know, so he just basically logged off, and then a day later we found out that he shouldn't have delete permission, but because he had delete permission, he was able to do it.
absolutely. So very good point, Brother Hassan. But see, this is the impact of that. Even if you give access, you need to make sure you give minimum privileges, right? So that's the key of access control, not just giving access to anybody to do anything. Giving access to authorized users to access only necessary resources. So at this time, like brother was saying, he should have only read-only access, but unfortunately, he was given delete access, and unknowingly or mistakenly, he deleted the data, which was unnecessary, right? So that's what we need to consider. That access control is not just giving access to authorized users, but also giving limited access to authorized users as per their job functionalities, and making sure unauthorized users cannot, and preventing unauthorized users from accessing the computing environment. Make sense, everybody? Clear?
Yes.
Yes. Excellent, excellent, folks. I think this was again wonderful session. Everybody were very proactive, very good, and it's 2 o'clock. Let's take a 15-minute break and come back and start the class, or we continue till 2:30. It's up to you guys. Take a break. Okay, let's come back at 2:15 and resume our class. Hello, everyone. Everybody's back? Yes. Is everyone back? Can someone reply?
I'm here, Abu.
Yeah, everybody's back. Okay, very good, very good. Okay, so let's go ahead and start our new chapter. And I am going to share our presentation here, and then we'll go from there. Let me start. Let me share my presentation. Let's go to share it, and I'm going to go to share it. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes,
Yes.
I can see.
Which screen are you
Yes.
seeing? The
Logical
rock?
access control.
Okay,
Oh, okay.
okay, this one, right? Access control. Okay, perfect, perfect. Let me put it up, and then let me change the presentation. Okay, so in today's, oh no, no, I'm sorry, not this one. Got the wrong. I got the wrong one. Oh, security. This is the one. Okay. Um, Let me share my screen again. Screen one. Yes. Okay. Oh, I closed it, I guess. Chapter 6, security operations. Okie dokie, security operations. We are okay. So you guys can see security operations now?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to talk about the roles of security administration within an organization, compliance. We're going to talk about components of IT, security policies, change management and change configuration, system lifecycle, and system development life cycles. So these are the topics we'll cover in our today's session. Okay. So let's go ahead with the quick Q&A before we start from the last week. So can somebody tell me risk management is in responding to a negative event when it occurs? Is it true or false? I want everybody to put their in the chat. Same drill like our last time. I want to see everybody. Is it true or false? A, false. Okay. Risk management is a response to negative event which when it occurs, right? It is true. It's not false. Let's move to the next one. Which answer best describe the authorization component of access control? Okay. Authorization is the method a subject uses to request access to a system. Authorization is the process of creating and maintaining the policies and procedures necessary to ensure proper information is available when an organization is audited. Authorization is the validation of proof that the subject requesting access is indeed the same subject who has been granted access to. And authorization is the process of determining who is approved for access and what resources they are approved for. I want everybody's answers, please. Either it's A, B, C, or D. Chat. Okay. Authorization is the process of determining who is approved for access and what resources they get, what resources they are approved for. Absolutely, D is the right answer, folks. That's what we just mentioned in our discussions earlier. Okay, let's go to the next one. Which answer best describe the identification component of access control? Identification is the validation of proof that the subject request access is denied is indeed the same subject who has been granted that access. Identification is the method of subject used to request access to a system. Identification is the process of determining who is approved for access and what resources they are approved for. And the last one is identification is the process of creating and maintaining the policies and procedures. Which one is the correct answer? A, B, C, or D? Everybody? Somebody saying B and somebody saying D. Identification is the process of, is the method, is it is the method a subject uses to request access to a system. That is correct. It's B. Let's go to the next one. Which answer best describe the authentication component of the access control? Authentication is the validation of proof that the subject requesting access is indeed the same subject who has been granted the access. Authentication is the process of creating and maintaining the policies. C. Authentication is the process of determining who is approved for access and what resources they have access. And D is authentication is the method a subject uses to request access to a system. Which one is everybody? So some are saying C, some are saying B. I haven't seen any. Oh, okay, Faisal. Authentication is always A, folks. Authentication is the validation of proof that the subject requesting access is indeed the same subject. Okay, that's what the authentication is. We want to check whether he's asking for is the right person, right? So it's A. Yeah, very good, folks. Let's go to the next one. Which answer best describe the accountability component of access control? Accountability is the validation of the proof that the subject requesting access is indeed the same subject who has. Accounting is the method a subject uses to request access to the system. Accounting is the process of creating and maintaining the policies. Accounting is the process of determining who is approved for access and what resources they are approved for. I don't see many answers yet. Which one is it? A, C, A, B, C, D? What is accounting used for? Accountability is for.
Tracking.
Absolutely, yes. So when there is an audit, so the answer is correct. Accountability is the process of creating and maintaining the policies and procedures necessary to ensure proper information is available when an organization is audited. When they are auditing, basically they are looking for logs, accounting logs and all that, right? So C is the correct answer. Yep. Most of you said C on that. Very good. Physical access control deter physical access to resources, such as buildings or gate parking lots. True or false? A or B? And most of you, A, that is correct. Let's go to the seventh one. When you log on to a network, you are presenting with some combination of username, password, token, smart card, or biometrics. You are then authorized or denied access by the system. This is an example of A, B, C, D, or E. Everybody says it is an example of excellent B. It is logical access control. Absolutely. 8. Access control cannot be implemented in various forms, restriction levels, or different levels within the computing environment. Is it true or false? Cannot be implemented in various forms. It is, yeah, most of you are saying it's false. Yes, it is false. You can implement. Ninth one, which of the following is an example of formal mode of access controls? DSC, MSC, Clark and Wilson integrity model, non-discretionary access control, or E? A, B, C, D, and E. Which one? Uh, why is A? Why is B? Mac is a access control model, right? DAC is
Right.
access control model. Then why are you saying A or B, which is not we are saying asking you?
Actually, it could be all of the above,
Yeah.
E.
Unless the Clark and Wilson integrity model is also included.
Absolutely, yes. Clark and Wilson integrity model is not the mandatory ones, right? Yep. So the answer is D. Yes, sir.
Oh, okay.
Not all of them. Yep. Answer is D. Yep. Yeah, it's a little confusing, right? But it gives us just to think about it. Physical access, security bypass, and eavesdropping are example of how access controls can be compromised, audited, authorized, stolen. Which one? A, B, C, D.
B.
And your answer is correct. Perfect. Okay, let's go back to our any questions so far? Good, everybody? Okay, let's go back to our today's session. Okay, security administration, right? What is security administration? And I'm pretty sure most of the companies have their own big banner in their office, like on the third floor, or there's like entire floor. Like my company, we have an entire floor, and the banner says SOC, Security Operations Center. And then there are like about 20, 30 people working in SOC 24/7, like people working in the night shifts in India, and in the daytime, we have a team here of SOC. So they are doing security administrative work, right? So basically, security administration is a group of individuals responsible planning, designing, implementing, and monitoring an organization security plan. So SOC basically they have their own SOC plan and policies in place, right? If there is an incident that happens, how we are going to handle the incidents, who are the first responders. So basically, SOC is the team or the first responder for any malicious event that is happening in your systems, right? So basically, what happens is what SOC main role is what your CMDB. So basically, when you are utilizing all your tools, right? You have tools in place, controls in place to monitor your system, right? So for firewalls, you have scanning going on. For your web applications, you have scanning going on. For on your OS, you have scanning monitoring going on, right? So when so you use different tools for monitoring your systems, right? Like Microsoft Defender. There's so many tools out there, right? So whatever your company choose to use for monitoring your systems. So when the system are monitoring, getting monitored, and logs are being sent to your SIM. Anybody can give me what SIM stands for? Tell me. We discussed that earlier too. SIM is a critical factor uh, in our infosec information security. SIM stands for what? Anybody? Security?
Security information monitoring.
No. What does it stand for?
Yeah, the information and event management part of
What is that?
Security information management, right?
Security information and
Management.
event
event
management.
management.
Event management.
Event
Simple.
management.
Like
That's it. Event
yeah.
management.
So first question in your interview, they'll ask you what SIM you use. So you need to know what SIM is. So security, information, and event management SIM concept. Okay. So what happens is while you're monitoring all your environments through tools, you cannot physically monitor anything, right? Obviously, 24/7 you won't be monitoring. So you use tools to monitor all those. And from those monitor scans, monitor, and logging. So all that goes into your SIM, security information, and what is it called?
Event
And
management.
event management. Yes, yes. I just wanted you guys to one more time. See, the thing is repetition, and always remember repetition gives you, it puts into your main memory. So there is one of my brother. He's a surgeon. So I asked him, just this is just a personal knowledge for all of us here, right? So I asked him, how do you memorize all these things, right? I can't even pronounce their some words they have in biology and in chemistry and all that. And he memorized all these words. So he said the best way to memorize is repeat. If you repeat the things, so once you say one or two times, it just stays inside in your what do you call in our brain too. There is uh, short-term memory and a long-term memory, right? How we have a hard drive and RAM in our systems. RAM is, it stays for temporary, right? And then if you submit that, then it goes to your hard drive, and then it gets persisted in your hard drive, right? So brain is also like that. We have a RAM in our brain, short-term memory, and we have a long-term storage memory. So the more times we repeat anything, we think we are wasting our time, but it's not wasting our time. It's basically going into in our hard drive, and then we'll keep it in our memory for a longer time. If you say it one or two times, then it's just like it's short term. You by the end of the class you'll forget it. But if you repeat couple of times, that way it goes in your memory and then in your hard drive, in your long term memory, and then it stays there for a while. So that's why our um, the the homeworks we are doing, everybody's doing that way, when we are repeating the same thing and having different ideas from different folks, that will help us retain that in long term memory. Make sense, everybody? So repeating is not a bad thing, actually. While you're learning, I'm talking about just learning. Other things, I'm pretty sure, it's not a good thing. It will be waste of time. So basically, you have security operations team. So what they do is anything that is flowing in Sentinel, I'll call Sentinel as our SIM system because we use Sentinel. So I've been used to saying that for 10 years now. So what happens is everything, all the logs, all the security events that is happening on your systems, on your laptop, on your servers, on your network, on your host, anywhere, So those all events are basically stored in your SIM. And some companies they store it for 3 years, some companies they store it for 5 years, whatever the company rules are. Okay. And then what happens is if there is any incident that you find, like for example, there is a person who's trying to log into the system, and then he tries like two times, three times, he fails it, and then somebody like trying to basically randomly acts that, like put a bot in your system to crack the password, right? So that events get stored in your Sentinel log events, and that notifications are sent to your SOC. Your SOC team looks at this notification, and for example, server A, some hacker is trying to basically hack the server by putting a bot of generic passwords to identify the password and break the password and get into the system, right? So what happens is this alert is sent to SOC. So SOC immediately sees that alert on that server. Some instance is happening on that server, right? So what SOC team does it? That team immediately contact the server owner. So for example, if Brother Faisal is the server owner, right? So SOC will immediately send an email and chat with this person, and then first they want to make sure that it's not a false positive. Basically, it's like some actually somebody from the team itself are trying to access that system, and they forgot the password, and then it's a false positive, right? Or it's actually a threat incidents that is happening that some hacker is trying to access the database server so that they can retrieve the data from the server, right? So basically, the first point of contact is SOC. Always remember, for any activities that is going on, uh, 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 any security related events, incidents that are happening, first point, most of the companies it's SOC, because some small companies they might include everything together, they might not have a separate SOC, but any mid-size and some big companies they always have a SOC group. So they are the first point of contact. They are always monitoring for any security incidents on your in your computing environments. And that could be host, that could be network, that could be anything. Okay, and then they basically move further along after that. So once they identify it, that is sent to the control owner, because SOC, always remember, this is tricky question. Some people they ask is SOC responsible for fixing any events? Basically, no, SOC is not. SOC only identifies the events and monitors those events and send it to the appropriate owners. So, for example, there is somebody sending SQL injection into server in application, right? Web application. That means there's the control owner are the web application team, right? So then they will talk to the web application, tell them that, hey, we see this incidents happening. Do you think this is an issue? This is somebody's trying to send some SQL injections, some ransomware or anything. So if that's the case, then they will isolate the systems, whatever the company policies, whatever they have designed. So they will guide, but they SOC will guide the control owners what to do next. That's what SOC has those plans in place. Everybody good? Understand what security administration team does?
Yes.
For that, SOC also need to make sure that they have the information, documentation information assets, right? So inventory. So without knowing what all your organization has, the inventory, it is very hard for the security administration or operation teams to monitor. So they will also have a inventory of inventory information of all the assets in their company. Okay. Companies operate with complex. So these are some points I'm putting in here. You can read through. Company operates with complex combinations of laws, regulations, requirement, competitors, and partners. Right. So the companies are not just there are all the products that companies work on. There is a lot of complexity on those products, right? So they have to follow the laws, they have to follow the regulations, they have to follow all the requirements from their customers. They have to also make sure they have their competitors in mind. They have to make sure their partners have. So everything is there, right? In additional moral, like they need to be, morally correct in work environment, labor relationships. They need to put proper labor relationship, productivity, cost, cash flow. All of these things are basically the security administration has to consider everything. All of this management develop security directives. So basically, management is the one, like the CISOs and chief information security officers and CIOs, chief what is that called? CIO, CISO, CIO, CEO, all of this chief executive officer, all of this team, they get together with the guidance of CISO. They will develop security directives. Okay, and then security team implements those directives through policies. Okay, and we'll discuss the policy standards and procedures later on in the slides. But the the directives are coming from the top tier, the management folks. Security teams, they implement those directives in a form of policy standards and procedures. Okay, and security professionals, they handle compliance trainings and enforcement. Right, there is security policy sets organization cultures, professionalism, ensures policy implementation, and all those things. Then everything will come into place once the policies are there. Then those policies have to be shared with all the organizations, right? Otherwise, you just create the policies and keep it to yourself without letting anybody knows these are the policies inside the company. How are those policies going to be implemented, right? So that's why there's team, security culture team, those kind of teams. They provide training to all the employees. Like in my company, there are 40,000 employees. And then if we create security policies and keep it, like CISOs create those security policies and just keep it somewhere without training those 40,000 employees on what those policies are, how you implement those policies, that's not going to work, right? So that's why it's the responsibility of this security culture team to share those policies with all the employees and make sure security policy sets organization culture. So make sure it is becoming a organization culture. Okay, professionalism ensures a policy implemented, and then we also make sure security team also governs whether those policies are being implemented properly across all the controls. Okay, when I say across all the controls, is it could be servers, it could be network, it could be host, it could be databases, or anywhere, whatever the policy is based on. Okay, makes sense. Everybody good so far? Any questions? No.
I have a question
Yes,
regarding
go ahead.
regarding SOC.
Uh-huh.
So you
Go ahead.
mentioned that it guides the the stakeholders to take the appropriate action. So do they, since they are not the ones who fix it, do they
Mhm.
have all the information as far as what needs to be done to take care of the issue at hand?
Who was this?
Faisal.
Faisal. Great question, sir. Yeah. So no, SOC will not have all the information about, for example, right? If there is a SQL injection happening, SOC might guide them, what are the, basically they have the tools. So when you have your security tools, when you have those security information, uh, uh, security tools, right? The tools that detect those issues, they provide remediations as well. So what the SOC team will do is basically, okay, this is the issue. For example, if you're getting a 500 error, I'm just giving an example here, right? So how to mitigate that 500 error? So the tools will provide recommendations on how to mitigate those 500 errors. So those recommendations will be shared to the web application team. Now, since web application teams have the entire knowledge of that system, how that system was built, how that system operates and everything, they will take the recommendations. But if they think that recommendation is false positive, they have a better solution, they can implement that better solution. Does that make sense, Brother Faisal?
Yeah. Yes. Thank you.
So SOC will obviously, SOC is not, they are not programmers, right? They are just a security analyst. They're sitting there. They will not know exactly how to fix those issues. That's why they don't fix it. The purpose of their not fixing it because they don't know the knowledge of that, right? The system owners knows the knowledge of how to fix those. So they will just provide those recommendations and the flow, right? How to do it, how to isolate the system, bring it down the system, bring down that system. We don't want that system online anymore. Just isolate that system, fix that system, test that system, and then verify that is tested. So those kind of things they'll guide in there, those processes. But actually fixing will be done by the SRE system system owners who knows about the system, how to fix it and all that. They only do is provide them the necessary information that has been provided by those tools. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes. Thank you.
Perfect. Very good. Let's go to uh, controlling access. We talked about identification, authentication, authorization, accountability, which is all done. The documentation procedures and guidelines. The most common documentation required include sensitive asset list, the organization sensitive processes as security policy processes. Okay. So we talked about sensitive asset list, right? So if we don't have that asset, we don't know what our assets are, we cannot protect it, right? So we need to make sure that we have that list, documentations on security processes. What are your organization security policy processes? The authority of the person responsible for security. So basically, you need to have some person in authority to put those policies in place, right? Otherwise, people won't listen to it, right? Why do you have cops? Cops have certain authority, right? Otherwise, who will listen to cops, right? So we play as cops in there, like CISOs and BISOs and all those folks, security, SOC, they have the authority um, to make sure that that information that they are sharing with the control owners is fixed, right? So that's their authority. They can demand them, hey, you have to fix this in 24 hours. If you don't fix this in 24 hours, there is consequences to it, right? So that kind of authority, the security team has to have that authority. Okay, and then the policies, procedure, and guidelines adopted by the organization. So these are the most common documentation requirement that at least every organization should have in place. Okay, and who has the authority? What are the security processes and the policies, procedures, and guidelines, and the sensitive asset list. Okay, so organizations must comply with rules on two levels. Always remember this. There is two levels that you have to comply with. One is regulatory compliance. Can somebody tell me what is the regulatory compliance?
That's with all the HIPAA and the rules and regulation.
Absolutely, yes, sir. All the HIPAA, PCI, credit card, all those rules and regulations that have the company has to comply to that, and organization policies too. And your organizations will also have policies, right? So whatever policies like acceptable use policy, right? What a user can do and what user cannot do. All those policies comes under organization policies. So in information security, you need to understand that you are monitoring both regulatory compliance and organization compliance at the same time. To give you an example, for example, right? Uh, in a company, any company, right? So if they find um, vulnerability management, I'm pretty sure we'll cover vulnerability management in next week or a week after that. But vulnerability management, to give you an example, quick example, right? Some of the companies, the one in vulnerability management, the vulnerability remediation timelines are basically for critical and high, it's 1 week. For medium, it's up 30 days. For low vulnerabilities, there is no timeline. You fix it, or if you don't want to fix it, don't fix it, right? But if you go into compliance like FedRAMP, state ramp, and all that, if you are getting approval to do business with government, you have to get a FedRAMP ATO, authorized to operate. In that case, you cannot have your company policies. You have to adhere to the FedRAMP policies if you want to do business with them. That is, you have to fix all the low vulnerabilities that are identified within 180 days. But your company policy state that no need for to you to, because of the humongous costs associated with fixing those vulnerabilities. Always remember, everything, there is a cost associated to it. So nothing is like, there is a saying, right? There is no free lunches, right? That's a English code, right? There is no free lunch, right? So in this case too, there is no free lunch. Anything you do, there is cost associated to it. So, but if you come into regulatory compliances, then you have to follow your organization compliance your regulatory compliance take precedence over your organization compliance. Always remember that. Make sense? Yes. Okay. Good. Uh, Disaster assessment and recovery. Like so, disaster assessment and recovery. The security administration teams handle incidents, disasters, and interruptions. Right. We talked about it, like disasters and incidents. There is instances, we just talked about it. Basically, they will identify the instance and then inform to the control owners, whatever. Forms an incident response team comprising individuals responsible for responding to incidents and investigating security breaches, right? So if there is any security breach or anything happens, the security administration team have a small team inside their team. It depends on how big the organization is and all that, but these are the things. They investigate the security breaches, manage the emergency operation groups, which is responsible for protecting sensitive data in the event of natural disaster, equipment failures, and other potential emergencies. So this all is incidents handling, disasters, and breaches all comes under security administration itself, under SOC and different departments of SOC. Security outsourcing, right? So some of the companies, more I have seen a lot of small companies, they outsource their securities. Uh, Anybody knows what outsourcing means? I'm pretty sure everybody knows here, but can somebody give me a quick example of what an outsourcing is?
So you can outsource your application development to an outside vendor. Instead of
Very good.
having an IT team of your own, you can have an IT team sitting somewhere else, either remotely or completely another company that will develop the applications for you.
Absolutely, yes, sir. And then security is also sometimes outsources because of the heavy cost of security, right? And so some of the advantages of having high levels. So advantages are when you outsource your security, and those security companies, they have experts that an organization alone may not have. Okay, they might have, like, experts, because, like how you said, we can outsource development work, and we have development experts, right? .NET experts, C# experts, Java experts, and Python experts. They all do. So that's one advantage. So there will be security experts too. So they will be experts in SOC. They could be experts in security culture, BISOs, business information security officers, all those kind of. That's the advantage. What are the disadvantage of having security outsourcing? Is outsourced firms may not possess internal knowledge. Internal knowledge is very important too, right? Because can somebody give me an example of what an internal knowledge is?
Knowledge how the systems interact with each other, and also the application, how it is developed. What
The
are what
domain knowledge, the business
domain knowledge?
knowledge.
Domain.
Yes.
Absolutely, both are correct. Yes, yes. Domain knowledge, application knowledge, architectural knowledge, data knowledge, all those things. Yes, definitely. Those are the disadvantages, because they are third party, and they are not even interested in that, right? So basically, they will do their job, and then so they lack internal knowledge, and some of the other disadvantage. You will not develop in-house capability or talent that needs to continue to pay for these services indefinitely, right? So the company will be paying those outsourcing agencies a lot of money, and they are not training the internal folks on that, right? So basically, that is another disadvantage of having a outsourcing your security. And also, we need to consider. Go ahead.
I have a question, Dr. Mujib.
Mhm.
So outsourcing your security, is that not a security breach in itself? That you are letting another company take care of the security. You do not know what kind of protocols they have in place, or they may themselves, I mean, it might compromise your data privacy or system privacy.
Yeah, you are 100% correct. In some companies, yes, but some small companies, it might not be, because they might have financial restraints too, right? So setting up a complete infosec team in your company, you need a lot of money. So what the small companies they do is, basically, they are not very worried about the data and all that. They don't have too much sensitive data. So just to have, like, some to just give you an example, right? Some of the companies, they reach out to me and they tell me to create the security policies for them, and then see those security policies are getting implemented, because they don't want to hire folks giving them big bucks to do that. And they just want it for temporary, right?
Okay.
So to give you example, right? I created for one company all the policies and gave it to them, and then it took me like about a month or a month and a half to do that. I just had to interview a few folks and make sure, I should say like about 8 to 10 weeks, and they paid me for 8 to 10 weeks, and then I showed them like how to implement those policies, just gave them the guidelines, and their engineers, they didn't have to have the security company. They just but the danger of that is, right, if there is a hacker, now that person, if he has malicious intentions, he knows exactly how their system works. So that could be an issue too. So
Correct.
you have to be very careful, how you do that. The best option is, you have your employees doing it, but if you don't have the money and the resources, then this is, at least something is better than nothing, right, Faisal? It's like that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep. So And here again, we have outsourcing consideration, privacy, like you just mentioned, right? Privacy, that's the risk. That's the risk if data security, ownership, adherence to policies. Like once I'm gone, who knows now they're putting the policies in place or not? Are they regularly updating those policies as accordingly and all that? Nothing is there, right? So basically, these are the considerations for outsourcing. Make sense? So these are some of the. Give me one second. So these are some of the agreements that you have to sign for outsourcing. I'm not going to go into each of these agreements. You can go through service level agreement and all those things. And then compliance, right? So you have to be compliant with. For the compliance, you need to be basically have the event logs, right? Compliance for what? Can somebody tell me? There are two types of compliance we said, right? One is
Regulatory compliance and
yes,
organizational compliance.
organization compliance. So to be compliant with both of those, we need to have event logs, right? Records of action that organization, operating systems, or application software creates, shows which user or system access data or a resource and when, right? Event logs. So where is this event logs going to? We just talked about it.
SOC.
SOC is what? SOC is what?
Security Operations Center.
Yeah. So that's a security operation center, right? How events log can go to a security operations center?
So they're not monitoring it?
They are monitoring it, but where are those logs stored? That's what I'm talking about.
Database.
I'm sorry?
Database.
Database.
Yeah, what is that database called? We just discussed it.
SQL.
No. Remember, we talked about a tool that we have.
Splunk.
What was that?
Splunk. Splunk. Are you saving it in Splunk?
Yeah. Splunk or it is Splunk or Sentinel. We said, right? But what is that system called? We just talked about it.
Yeah.
SIM, exactly. Yes. So the events are going into your SIM system. SIM system is it's a database, right? Whether it could be Splunk or it could be Sentinel, whatever, right? So what is SIM again? One more time, folks. Full form of SIM: security, information, and
event management.
Event management. Yes. So the logs are going into your SIM systems. Okay. You put all your logs in compliance liaison, make sure that all persons are aware and comply with the organization policies. So we need to make sure that everybody is aware of the organization policies, not just aware, they are also compliant to organization policies, right? And how do we do that? How do we send awareness to all the people? Which team we discuss will do the awareness? We talked about a team, right, that does the awareness. Security culture team, right? We have a security culture team. They give awareness of all this thing. Remediation: fixing something that is broken or defective, and with computing system, it refers to as fixing security vulnerabilities. So basically, if you find any vulnerabilities, you have a vulnerability management, and basically based upon your vulnerability management systems, you fix your vulnerabilities. If it's a critical vulnerability, that has to be, it depends on every organization, right? So if it's critical, it will be like 1 week. If it's high, it will be 30 days. If it's medium, it will be like 90 days. It will be low, 180 days, whatever it is, whatever your remediation timelines are to fix the vulnerabilities. So we need to make sure we are logging all the events, make sure everybody is compliant to all the policies that you have created, and make sure we are remediating everything in appropriate time, right? That's what compliance stands for. Professionalism and professional ethics. So set an example. What do you mean by set an example here? Can somebody tell me? As a information security personnel, you have to set an example, right?
Yeah, you have to
Because
follow them yourself.
yeah. So because the preachers have to be, we are like the preachers, right? If we won't follow the rules, then nobody will follow the rules. So you set those by example, right? Basically, for example, right? You 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 make sure that when you leave your workstation at home at work, uh, your office, make sure you lock your system. Don't keep it open and have it everybody can whoever is there looking um, um, can access your laptop. Or don't put your password on a pink slip right there in your cube, and hey, this is my password, everybody can read my password, right? So you set by examples. Make sure you are following all the uh, policies that has been put in place in your company, so that you set an example. By your example, every encourage adopting ethical guidelines and standards, right? So you need to encourage other people to adopt the ethical guidelines, right? No, what do you call that? So for example, everybody, I have noticed this a lot of times, like when we go for lunches, all team. So when people come back, just one person badges and everybody enters the building. That's not a right practice, right? We need to make sure that everybody, even though you know everybody, but everybody have to make sure they badge in before they get inside the room, inside the office. One person badges in and then he holds the door, and then like especially in our background, like it's like a custom that you hold the door and then everybody walks in without batching in. That's not the right way of doing it. You make sure that everybody batches before they enter the office, right? So those kind of things, you need to put in place. Inform users through security awareness training. So we provide security awareness training and inform the users what are the policies and procedures and everything you have to follow. Make sense? Everybody good? Yes. Okay. Let's move on. Common fallacies about ethics. So common mistakes about ethics, right? Basically, people think computers should should prevent abuse, right? Some of the people, they think computers will prevent the abuse by itself. No, that's not right. You have to you have to put controls in place for computers to prevent abuse too. You cannot just go on the computer and do whatever, and then you think go on any website, and then you think you will not the ransomware will not come on your computer. That's not right. You have to put like antivirus policies, everything on your computer before you go on the net, because you don't know what's on the net, right? So they have the right to explore security vulnerabilities as a form of a free speech and expression. So like I said, right, we are not supposed to do any uh, penetration testing against the law. So penetration testing is, or hacking is against the law. So if we think, oh, I can exploit, and I'm not harming the company. Oh, I'm trying to help the company. No, no. If it's not assigned to you, that's not your duty to do. Even when you do pen testing, you have to get approval from the business leadership. That even the red team that we have, anytime we do any pen testing, we get the approval from the CISOs and the CIOs. Then only they perform pen testing. Never perform pen testing without the approval from senior management. Otherwise, there is penalties, and people now can go to jail too for that. I think they have added jail term too nowadays. Their actions may cause only minor damage, and that a little damage will not bother anyone, right? So people think, oh, it's just a little damage. It's not a big deal, right? So no, it's not. Sometimes it could be a very big deal too. If it's easy to break it, it must all right to do so. So some people think, oh, if it's easy to break, we can, it must be all right to do it, right? So basically, it shouldn't have any big consequences if it's easy to break it. Hacking is okay if they do not damage, do not do not do not damaging, if it's not damaging, right? No, hacking is never okay unless you are being approved to do uh, penetration testing. Penetration is testing is form of hacking, but you have approval from the system, from the senior management, and you are doing it to identify vulnerabilities. That's okay, but You never assume that it's not damaging. If they are not making any money or advancing themselves by hacking into a system, they must not be committing a crime. So if you're just doing saying that, oh no, I'm not doing for money or anything, I'm just trying to learn, I'm hacking. No, it's you are committing a crime. So you cannot do that. Information should be free, and it's okay to look through somebody else's systems to obtain information. Some people think, okay, information is free, let me go ahead and look at my brother, look at my uncle, look at my friends, how their credit is, what how much they owe, how much money they have in their banks. No, that's none of our business. We cannot do that, right? So these are some of the common mistakes people think about it. Any questions so far? Everything good, everybody? So we should never do these things at work. So, and then personal security principles is very important too, folks. So personal security principles refer to a set of guidelines and practices at safeguarding an organization's sensitive information and serves by addressing potential security risk, okay, associated with employees, contractor, and other personals. So remember, we said uh, more 30 to 35% of the uh, breaches happen through insiders, right? Insider is one of the basically 30 to 35% of breaches happen through insiders. Insiders could be like, we gave examples earlier, right? Can somebody give me an example of an insider? Why will insider do? What is the reason that insider will do a security breach? Because they are.
They have been compromised. They could be compromised either because of their
Or a
financial
disgruntled.
situation, or they
Disgruntled
might want to
employee.
know the information regarding their, I mean, family member or their friends. That actually happened in one of my sister teams where a person was looking. Um, I work for a telecom company, so they were
Huh?
going through their phone records, their family member.
True. Yeah. Yeah. Those are all good points. Or unhappy employee. They didn't get promotion, and they want to just make sure that they want to harm the company or whatever. They could be some of the like disgruntled employees, or compromised, like another brother said, compromised, right? Yeah, absolutely. So we need to put some safeguards in place, right, for that. So I'm going to go over a few of those safeguards here. Screening and background checks. This is the vital, very important, that before you hire anybody, you do a background check and you do screening for everything, like criminal records or financial screening. Nowadays, a lot of companies are also doing financial screening too. But those are the things. Access control. We talked about access controls. Strict access controls can also, um, reduce the risk of employees doing bad things in the systems, right? Access control. That's why we say that HR should not have access to databases, product databases, and IT should not have access to HR employee data, related data, right? So what will happen otherwise? Everybody's salaries now. You're like, oh, okay, I'm getting paid so low, So those kind of things. So we need to make sure that access control, or how so the things which we don't have to work with, we shouldn't get access to it. The other one is security awareness trainings. This is very important, right? We provide the trainings, phishing trainings, and all those things to make sure and accidentally too. Some of the things happens accidentally too. And then we have a phishing program in our company, and we do, like, every year there is about, by accidentally, people are downloading malwares through emails and all that, phishing emails and all that, onto the systems a lot of times. That happens a lot. So that's why you need to make sure you provide proper security awareness trainings as well. Clearance levels, assign appropriate security clearance levels based on individual jobs and responsibilities, right? So clearance levels is mostly done in the government, right? Like military and all that. Monitoring and auditing, like we talked about, monitoring auditing is very important. Otherwise you're flying blind, right? If you're not monitoring and if you're not logging information, then basically You don't know who's accessing your systems. You don't know where who is doing what, right? So those are the things. It's very critical for your company to make sure that you have an eye on who's doing what on your systems. Otherwise, you'll be just flying blind. Right? Reporting incidents. Basically, all the employees should know exactly where clear processes and procedures should be in place if they find anything, uh, uh, security incidents or breaches, suspicious activities. They need to be, uh, everybody should know exactly clear processes and procedures in place so that they can immediately coordinate those people and then get that taken care of. Termination procedures. The people should know exactly, hey, if you do not adhere to these policies, there will be consequences. You can be terminated too. The procedure should also be there. Non-disclosure agreements. I know some of the companies, they ask for non-disclosure. Nowadays, a lot of companies are doing that. Bind personal to protect sensitive information, prevent unauthorized disclosures, right? So basically, this happens mostly in kind of marketing and business areas too, but in technology too nowadays, this is happening. A lot of folks have to sign this non-disclosure agreements as well. Okay, physical security culture, right? By adhering to this personal security principles, organization can mitigate the risk of insider threat. So these are like 10, and there could be more than this too, but I'm just putting 10 here. So you can in your homework you can research more too, and if you find more other than this, that will be great too, so that we can learn all a lot more about this too. Okay. The infrastructure of an IT security policies, right? So what is the infrastructure of IT security policies? This is what we have been talking about day one, right? Policies are document management goals and objectives. So policies will be putting management's goals and objectives, what they want to do. Standards are mandatory. Policies are also mandatory. Requirements for hardware and software solutions used to address security risks throughout an organization. Procedures are step-by-step systematic actions. Okay. Baselines are basically configuration for specific types of computers or devices. Okay. And we talked about baselines, right? So there is baselines like CIS baselines, baselines. And in our homework, you can also discuss. I think I have a question in homework about about baselines too. So do some research on what are the common baselines that companies use. So there is baselines provided uh, by CIS benchmarks, STIGs. These are basically researched and developed by by government mostly, this baselines, and then they provide this to all the companies so they can use this baseline to make sure their their systems are um, security compliant with the government uh, compliance policies. Okay, so they provide those, and I think earlier I shared with you all the STIG and CIS compliance baseline documents too. But remember, STIG, STIG, and CIS. So keep that in. I want you to do as homework. Read more about this, and then if I'm pretty sure I have a question in week's class. If not, you can also. I'm going to put it right here. STIG. I don't remember the full form of this. STIG stands for Security Technology Investigation, something like that. And CIS, Central for Information Security, something like that. CIS, baselines. So this baselines are for servers, for databases, for network, and they have all this base. They have baselines for most of the asserts, and then also for logging is M document M M21-31 for logging. So review this too, M2131 for logging, STIG and CIS baselines. This will give you like comprehensive understanding of how controls work and what are those controls baselines and all that too. So it's important, as a security information person, we need to understand these baselines. Okay, I did put both of them here in our chat. So when you get a chance in the week, take a look at those. Okay, so we talked about policy, standards, procedures, baselines, guidelines here. Any questions so far, folks? Are we good? Are you all sleepy?
No, we are here.
Okay, very good. Okay, so IT security policies environments right here. So overreaching organization policies, management security statements, right? So organization goals, policies will be based on organization goals, laws, shareholders' interest. Remember, some of the policies are also based on shareholder interest as well. Organizational objectives, regulations. So these are the things which drives our organization policies. Okay. And you can look at this IT security policy hierarchy, right? Organization security policy statement by top level management that security is important to the organization, and the activities to to a secure state will be recognized, supported, and funded. So basically, organization policies will say, this is important for us, and we will provide and support and fund for these policies, right? So functional policies in support of organization policies. These are some of the examples. Functional policies. Security policy is basically top level management understands that security is important, it's critical. We recognize that and will support it and will fund it. Without that, you cannot go to the functional policies. If you don't, if you're, if you are not getting financed by your top level management, can you implement anything? No. For implementing all of this, you need finances, right? And nowadays, like tools are becoming so expensive. Microsoft is like, they charge a lot of money, man. They are very expensive. Any tools nowadays, security tools have become very expensive. So policies will be acceptable use policies, email policies, wireless policies. Uh, some of the examples: antiviruses, interconnectivity, firewalls. Putting all these things on hundreds of thousands of devices, 30,000, 40,000 devices. It takes a lot of money to do that, even just to put an antivirus in your system, right? So all of this needs money, right? Then you have policies, then you have supporting mechanisms that are for the policies. You have supporting mechanisms. Those are standards, procedures, baselines, and guidelines. Standards, specific products and mechanism. You all know this: standards, procedures, baselines, and guidelines, right? So this is the hierarchy of the policies that we are to. A few types of policies, maybe intrusion policies, tampering policies, material destruction policies, right? So basically, if you have PII data and all that, you just can't throw it in the garbage. You have to shred it. You have to do all those kinds of whatever you need to do. Those are the policies, that corporate policies you need to have in place, right? Baseline corporate configurations, right? Baseline corporate configurations, right? VPN setups, IDS configuration, password rules. These are basically your baselines, right? What kind of password rules you want to have, how often you want to rotate password. Nowadays, they are saying to rotate passwords on a daily basis. How do you rotate password daily basis? You need to have tools, right? Automated tools to do that. So those are all kinds of, it's a big, huge business, folks. Security is nowadays, it's a very big multi-billion dollar business. Types of IT security policies. I'm not going to go over each of those policies. I'm just going to go over briefly on these policies. And then if you have any questions, please ask me on this. Acceptable use policy, we talked about it. What is acceptable and what is not acceptable. You can do within the organization, right? With your computer systems. That's what it is. Password policies. You all know what the password policies are. Access control policies. We talked about access control policies. Data classification policies, right? Uh, so it could be public, internal, or confidential, right? So data could be classified as what? Public, internal, confidential. Provides guidance on how each category should be handled, stored, and transmitted. So if it's public, do we have to put anything in any controls in a public data, folks? if it's a public? Anybody? Any controls in place for public?
No.
No, because it's public. You're right. Yeah. But for internal and confidential, you need to have some uh, policies in place, right? Controls in place to make sure that that the data is the confidential data doesn't become public, right? So those kind of things. So that's why we need to have a data classification for network security policies, right? Network security policies cover the rules and best practices for securing an organization network, including firewalls, intrusion detection systems, and encryption, right? So even even so encryption, right? We talked about encryption earlier too. So what are all types of encryptions you have to put in place? Anybody? So do we have to put encryption in place when the data is at rest?
Yeah, yeah, we have to put. Means
And
I
why?
think from data point of view, even in data is in transmission, fine. It
100% you
has,
have to have encryption,
yeah,
especially
yeah, encryption.
especially any sensitive data. You have to have encryption in when data is in use, data is in transit, or data at
Yeah,
rest, right?
yeah,
All three
yeah.
places you have to make sure that you have encryption.
Yeah, so there are many protocols for this encryption.
Absolutely,
Fine.
yes, sir.
Yeah, I
Definitely.
remember one is the most important, right? TLS, something like that. Or TLS, I don't
Yeah,
remember.
yeah.
Yeah,
TLS 1.2 nowadays, right? They're
yeah,
using
yeah,
TLS 1.2. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. There is a lot of protocols, but we'll not go into protocols right now. Otherwise, it's going to take for hours to just discuss protocols. Okay. So incident response policies. We talked about incident response, a policy outlining the procedures to follow in an event of a security breach, right? So what kind of a what are the things we need to do if there is a security breach? Mobile device management, right? Remote access policies. Nowadays, this has become very important. Remote access policies, because a lot of people are doing work remotely now, right? Defines the requirements to secure access to the organization network and resources from remote locations, often addressing VPN and authentication methods, right? So I'm pretty sure all of you use VPN to access your computer work systems, right? So that those are all remote access policies and everything that you have to put in place. Backup and recovery policies, right? Backup is very important, right? That is also very critical. That not just taking backups, you need to also test that those backups are you can recover them properly. Otherwise, you just take backups and then you cannot recover them. Then a lot of people here they work with databases, right? So I'm pretty sure they are aware of this. So you need to make also test those backups to make sure that they recover properly, right? Any backups you can take, database backups or data backups or OS backups or whatever, right? Social engineering policies. This is also very important. Social engineering, we discussed that social engineering is one of the main causes of um, uh, you know data breaches, right? So we need to make sure that we educate our team around social engineering, how phishing happens, how pretexting happens, and provide guidance on how to recognize and respond to such threats. So I'm pretty sure a lot of companies now they have those phishing programs going on. They send those emails with attachment, and then the employee that those are like basically done through the information security team itself. But now they understand that how employees are basically taking the social engineering seriously or not. So I think most of the companies now, if you click the link, phishing link, first time you have to go to a training. Second time you have to go to a more rigorous training. Third time, I think your manager and your senior leadership is informed that you are not adhering to the social engineering policies. And I think it depends on all the companies. There are different rules. At some point, they will also terminate you. So if you're doing the same mistakes fourth or fifth time, they have a right to terminate you. And a lot of people got terminated. Not a lot, a few people got terminated because of the social engineering policy as well. So we need to make sure that we are aware of this social engineering policy as well. Vendor security policies to organize to work with third party vendors. This policy sets security expectations and requirement for vendors to protect the organization data and system, right? So when we sign a contract with vendors, we need to make sure that if those vendors are getting our data, confidential data, how they're using it, how they're securing it, is it going to be exposed, right? It doesn't matter where the data comes from. If it's coming from your company, then you will be affected by that. So you need to make sure that you have proper vendor security policies as well in place. Make sense, everybody? Good so far? Yes? And patch management policy, encryption policies, cloud security policies for organizations using cloud services. This outline security requirements and responsibility related to cloud infrastructure and storage. So there are certain responsibilities. You are like, especially now, most of the companies are using cloud services, and some of the companies, they use cloud services as software as um, SaaS system, software as a service, or some companies use some of those. The companies use SaaS, um, software as a service, or platform as a service, right? Or infrastructure as a service. So each of those services that you're using, either infrastructure, platform, or software, there is certain responsibilities by your CPM, cloud service provider. That could be Azure, it could be AWS, that could be uh, Google, whatever it is, whatever your service, and certain responsibilities, security responsibilities. You will be responsible for certain security uh, activities, and your cloud service provider will be responsible for certain security activities based on what type of service you are getting, right? So if you are getting software as a service, then they are complete, most of 90% of the information, 90% of the security is 90 to 95% of the security is handled by your cloud service provider. And like, your will be basically like 5% to make sure that data is protected and all that. And then if you're using platform as a service, then again it depends if what kind of a platform you have, what are the things what are the assets that you are configuring, right? If you are configuring something, then you are responsible for making sure you are putting proper controls in place to make sure that your assets are um, secure, right? So those kind of, we'll look into that when we get to the cloud. We have a cloud session too, I think week 10 or week 11 something. We'll go over all the details on how cloud works, and what is the security responsibilities from both, from as a customer and as a cloud service providers. So we'll look into that in later sessions. Physical security, we talked about it. We need to have proper physical securities on all that too. I'm not going to go over this. You can read through this. And then data classification. So data classification is also very important. Can somebody tell me why the data classification is very important? Anybody? Why is data classification so important? Come on, folks. One, 1 point, 2 points. Anybody? Because
So by classification, if you mean like, you know, top secret, secret, public and so forth.
yeah, sensitive, important, confidential, yeah, whatever it is. Yes, that's
Right.
what the classification is, right?
Correct.
Why is
Yeah.
it important, SM?
So we have to be able to classify the data properly so that we can set the role-based access control based on classification.
Very good point. Yes, sir. Very good point. Yes, sir. What else?
Also means like if you have some data which is physically with you, fine, like some printouts and all those things, fine. And according to its classification, you can shred that. You don't keep this in open place so that other people can read it. Suppose some customer information, all those things. If it is classified at highly confidential, all those things, and if you print it out, just you shred it. Also, sometimes presentation material. Fine, you are presenting something, and you are means like you have that presentation already printed, then you have to shred that. So according to the category of the classification, there is some policy defined what to do with that data. So that is also very important for class for
Yeah,
data.
absolutely. Very good point. Very good point. Yes, sir. Any other points? One point I'll say, it saves a lot of money too when you classify the data. So basically, encryption, right? When we talk about encryption, do you want to encrypt everything, even the uh,
Data.
uh,
Uh,
public data?
no,
Because
no,
it
no.
costs a lot of money, right? So
Yeah.
if you don't know, you don't classify what is confidential and what is PII, then you have to encrypt everything, right? By classification, you can say that, okay, I'm just going to encrypt PII data. That's about it. And other data, I'm not going to encrypt anything. That way, you are now saving a lot of money in encryption that way, because encryption costs a lot of money too, right? Anything like so yes. So those are
Also,
the. Mhm,
yeah, one more point related to data. If
mhm,
data is residing in the database, fine, in
mhm.
production, or even you are doing some synthetic data you have, then as per your role, you mask that data by creating sometimes a view on that table, fine, and you exclude those data which is very informative and as per your classification. Then you can grant access to different user, or grant access to the production support team. So that
Absolutely.
also depends on the classification.
Yeah, yeah. That's why data classification is very important, so that we can save a lot of money, and we know which one is sensitive, which one is critical, which one is confidential. So that way, based upon those, we can take those actions, like you all mentioned earlier. Yeah, very good points, folks.
Yeah, one more
So,
thing,
uh-huh,
Professor Mujib, I wanted to ask about.
sure.
Like right now, we are in the era of means remote working. Fine. Suppose a person who has access to that classified data. Of course, you cannot download that data or whatever. But suppose if you take the snapshot through your phone, then what is going to happen? I know means it is prohibited. You have to sign the policy that you cannot take the snapshot. But if he takes the snapshot and take the vital information, and then he can send it to somebody else, fine. So in
Yeah,
how
yeah,
to restrict that?
absolutely.
Yeah, so how to restrict that?
See, that's what we say. That's why, right? We never say that we are 100% compliant, or there is,
Okay.
like, it's like 100%. We cannot say any system is 100% uh, secure. That's the reason we say that it's 100%. That's why we say we are not. Nobody can say that my system is 100% secure. It cannot be. Like you said, this example, right? Some of the top guy who has access to classified information, he comes in and then he just grabs the, otherwise you restrict the phones. I know, I've worked for Lockheed Martin before, and we couldn't take our phones inside. We couldn't even take our lunch boxes. We can take lunch boxes, but we have to go through the scanners for the lunch boxes, and phones were not allowed at all. So in those kind of places, yeah, they have some policies in place. You cannot take your phone with you. You cannot do this or you cannot do that. But if you don't have that policy, then it's not secure. Then nobody's stopping you from taking that. Make sense, brother?
Yeah, another example I can give that in big companies, financial companies, there are some people who are working and interacting with client, which is strictly prohibited that information to go to other people. So what they do, they segregate the office place, fine, that
Hmm.
these type of people should stay only in this area, and there
True.
is a Yeah, and there is a separator in between, then other people can stay, and so that they cannot listen to those people voice what they are talking with client. Otherwise,
Absolutely.
yeah, otherwise if it is means outside, other people can furnish that information.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you have to have like your own space. You cannot. Yeah, true. Even the same thing with your data centers. Everybody doesn't have access to data centers. Only the people
Yeah,
who work in
yeah,
data
yeah.
centers have access to data centers. You cannot just walk into a data center and play with your servers there and get the disk out and take it home. You cannot do that. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Great points. Very good. Okay, so classification standards, data owners, system owners, classification information criteria, right? So basically, first thing for data, you have to have a data owner. Who owns that, right? So the people who are responsible to own that, system owners, personal group that manages the infrastructure, right? So basically, data and systems are different, right? So databases that have data in it, they are owners for the data, and systems owners are the server owners. The server's infrastructure is kind of server, right, or whatever the places they are putting that data into, or disk or whatever, right? So there are data owners, systems owner, and classification information criteria. Valued, sensitive, and critical. So these are the classifications. So first you have to have a, you need to identify who the owner of the data is, and who the owner of those systems are, where the data is residing, and what is the classification criteria for your data. So these are the three standards we need to follow. And the information classification objectives is basically to identify information protection requirements, to identify data value in accordance with organization policies, to ensure sensitive or critical information is provided appropriately, protected protection and controls, right? To lower cost by protecting only sensitive data, right? You need can lower the cost by protecting only sensitive data, public data. You don't need to protect it. Otherwise, it will be very costly to have encryptions and this and that, those kind of those kind of things, right? To standardize classification label throughout the organization. So we need to standardize classification labeling throughout we need to make sure that we have proper labels, right, to alert employees and other authorized persons to protect requirements, to comply with privacy laws and regulations. So we need to also comply with privacy laws and regulations for the data as well. Okay. Classification examples are right here for US government: unclassified, restricted, confidential, secret, top secret. This is how data is classified, labeled in US government. And private sectors, we have general, internal, and confidential. And I'm pretty sure most of us here, we work in private sectors. And then sometimes you will get email saying confidential, right? Sometimes it says internal, and sometimes it says general. So what's the difference between general and internal? Anybody can tell me? Confidential, everybody agrees, right? And it's confidential. What's the difference between internal and general?
A general email is for all the employees, and internal email is for a department for a specific department, I guess.
Yeah, that could be one too. And the other one, basically internal, is basically all the company employees, that's it. And general is for everybody, general public too. So for example, right, to give you an example, right, sometimes you'll get an internal email saying that this is internal, we are acquiring this company within 1 month, right? That's still internal, right? So internal means you cannot share it with public. And as a company, yeah, we are acquiring this company. Once the company is acquired by your company, then that will become public information. So it will be sent out to everybody saying that, oh, we have acquired this company and this is our company now. So everybody knows now that, all the general people know that this company has been acquired by your company. Make sense? Well, excellent. Let's move on. Classification procedures. So critical to effective data classification determines the scopes and processes, conduct a business impact analysis to evaluate all the organization's data. Okay, data values determined according to exclusion processes, exclusive possessions, right? So data can be determined by exclusive possessions like trade secrets and intellectual property. You know that what is trade secrets and intellectual property? Utility, usefulness of the data, how useful the data is. Cost to create or recreate the data, how much costly is it to get the data. Data could be expensive too. When you, like my company, the only business we do is sell data. We make billions of dollars by just selling data. We get the data free, and we just basically scrub the data, make the data into readable format, make the data intelligent, and sell it to all the companies, and they buy from us. And we make billions of dollars of that. So it is very expensive to get the data too. Liability, protection regulations. So sometimes we need to make sure that we have to keep the data only certain amount of that time. That's it. After that, you just purge it. Otherwise, you will be held liable if something happens to that data, right? Convertibility, negotiability, financial information about the data, operational impact. If data is unavailable, what happens if the data is we don't have that data, right? For example, if somebody breaches data companies, that means they are basically not in business anymore because they sell data. And then if you are not able to if your customer is not able to get the product, then basically you are dead in water. You're not going to do any business, right? So if you're a data company, it's very important that your data is available. Threats to the information and risk. So these are the um, data values indeterminate according to how we want to classify data, right? Whether it's critical data or internal data or public data, whatever it is. These are some of the factors that you can use. Makes sense, everybody? Any questions? Yeah, go through the slides too, folks. Assurance, right? Internal and external audits. So we want to assure that our data is basically safe and secure, right? So that's why we do internal and external audits. And audits are very expensive too, folks. If you especially hire external auditors, or they charge arm and a leg. We are in an external audit. I sit in those audits at my work, and they ask you so many questions, and they are very expensive. They cost a lot of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars, just for like uh, the one or two products audits too. So information security personals, right? We need to make sure that should regularly visit workstation and other areas where users might leave unprotected classified materials. So that's basically one of the information security folks' responsibility to just make sure that workstations and other areas where users might leave unprotected classified materials. So we need to make sure that that doesn't happen. When violation occurs, submit appropriate reports to supervisors and managers. So, for example, right, your team's task is to also make sure that you visit all the sites in your offices and verify that if there is any unprotected classified material sitting. Like, for example, like a lot of people, they go into business meetings, like the brother was saying, right? And then they have all kinds of classified data, and they print it out and they just put it in the um, conference room itself, and then they just go off, right? And then you're walking through the conference room, and then you find that classified data. Then your job is to take that data, identify who left that data, and inform their supervisors and managers that, hey, this is what is happening. And it happens consistently, that is happening. Then there is, again, you have policies, termination policies and all that too, right? So that's how you can provide assurance there as well. Make sense, everybody? So security, you're looking at this, right? It's not just one thing. It's a combination. It's like basically you're policing the entire organization. They're making sure everybody is in line with policies and procedures. Make sense, everybody? Any questions? Let's go to configuration management. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, but configuration management is basically it manages all the changes to computer and device configurations. So basically, we need to make sure that configuration management, we have a strong configuration management. Some of it's not basically entirely information security's domain, but information security plays some parts to configuration management. Okay, so basically they need to make sure they're doing proper audits and making sure they have all the basically system changes, and configuration management also, it's the responsibility of information security team to make sure if you make those changes, that changes will not unintentionally have some security consequences, right? So that is what is the information security team's responsibility. So I'll give you an example, right? For example, there is a configuration management change in your application. There is some new you have added enhancement to your application. Okay, so now you go to the configuration management team and tell them that, hey, this is the enhancements we added to our systems. Okay, and this is the reason we added that. So there, I'm pretty sure you all I don't know whether you all have sat in configuration management meetings. They have weekly, monthly, and in my company there is weekly, and I go and sit in those meetings to make sure that we are properly compliant from the security point of view. So basically, just to give you an example, web application, right? A web application team will come and say to the configuration man, hey, as per this customer, they wanted us to add this enhancements to this our application, and we have added this enhancement, and we have tested this enhancement, and we are going to deploy this enhancement to production on 2/25th, for example, 2/25th. And then the configuration management team will ask them, okay, what is the backup plan? Okay, we have a backup plan. If something goes wrong when we deploy it to production, we can roll it back to our old version or whatever it is, right? And then from the security perspective, we'll ask them, okay, did you run the dash scans on them? Did you run the SAS scans on them? And then, yes, we ran the dash scan, dynamic application security testing, or static application security testing. Okay, and then we'll ask them to provide the reports to us. And this is all done before too. That they provide those reports to basically, if you have your dynamic application security testing team, right? So they will provide those reports to. I'm forgetting the name of that team we have. You can call it any name. You can just call it information security team, saying that, okay, we did this dash scanning on the system. Some of the times in my company, most of those dash scans are done by the application security team. Sorry, it's called application security team. We have a separate application security team because we have 140 products. So we have a big application security team at the same time. So they run those dash scans, and then they make sure that those dash scans have zero vulnerability, like minimum vulnerabilities, which is manageable vulnerabilities. So then in those meetings, like a CISO or director, they sit and they ask for those reports, ask for the report. They show me the report saying that, okay, this is there, it is fine, there's no vulnerabilities. Then I give the thumbs up, the configuration management team gives the thumbs up, it goes to production, next day approves it. So that's basically a gist of what configuration management is. And then we log everything, all the changes and everything that happened in configuration management. Does that make sense, folks? Everybody good? Any question on configuration management? Good. So hardware inventory and configuration chart, right? Decisions to roll out new patches, server packs, or release will be complicated if you can't find, update, and test every effective device, right? Have an up-to-date map or layout of the configuration, right? Regular checkups for any vendor upgrades, patches, and service packs. So this is all hardware inventory and configuration chart we need to follow. Change management process, configuration control management of the baseline settings for a system device, change control management of changes in the configuration. So basically, this chart is showing the process I just talked to you about, with the change management meeting in the meeting. So this is all will be in there. Change control management, reactive, proactive management initiates the change to achieve a desired goal. Management response to change in business environment, right? This is a requirement, reactive, and this is proactive. So you can have it in both reactive and proactive ways. Change control committees. Changes are properly tested, authorized, scheduled, communicated, documented. So this is what change management team does, and they have they are property testers. They are authorized by the team to approve it, scheduled for deployment, communications. Then you have to communicate with the customers too, and then you also document all the enhancements or whatever changes you have done to your systems. Okay. Any questions so far? So change control procedures like request, impact assessments, approvals, build, test, implementation, and then that this is a round robin. So this all goes on and on every day. Um, all the developers and everybody are always working on enhancements and all that, right? So we have like in our place we have weekly meetings, change control meeting. You cannot you cannot basically deploy any code into production unless you have approval from the change management committee. So that the goal of the change management committee is to make sure all the changes that are going into production, they are basically properly tested, they are authorized, they're scheduled, they're communicated, and they are documented. This is the basically goal of the change management committee. Okay. Change control issues, peer reviews, backout plans, documentations. We talked about it just now and all of that. Application software security, process of software deployment, system lifecycle, system development lifecycle. So basically, these are things. This has nothing to do. I shouldn't say nothing to do, but basically, information security teams must be aware of these things. You practically will not be doing anything with this, but you need to know, understand how the system lifecycle works in your organization, how system development lifecycle works in your organization, right? Because that is the includes operation, and so basically steps are similar. Key difference is SDL includes operation and disposal. Okay, so what's the difference between SLA and SDLC, right? SLA includes basically operational and disposal. What is operational? Once your systems are deployed in production, SLA also includes making sure product operational is working fine, right? So for example, right? So you have an application. Uh, One of the client requested you that, okay, develop an application for us, and we want that application running for the whole month of December. Okay. Then SDLC basically ends with the transition to production. SDLC basically will come in and will create the application for your customer, and then they will deploy it to production. That's it. That's SDLC's job. SLC job is now to make sure that application is up and running till 31st December. On January 1st, they basically dispose it off. Dispose it off means they basically put it offline and basically remove that system from the uh, uh, from wherever it has to be removed from. So that's the job of SLC. So for example, right, uh, let's look at a document. So your customers come and say, we want one document to be displayed on our site for from December 1st to December 31st. That's it. So SDLC team will come and create that document and deploy it on that website. SLC team will monitor that document is up and running till December 31st. And then on January 1st, they will remove that document and they'll shred that document. That's what disposal means. Does that make sense, everybody? So that's the two key difference between SLC and SDLC. And information security team, they work with both SLC and SDLC teams, not just with SLC or not just with SDLC. This is the important fact that we need to understand. So we work with the whole life cycle. How that data is getting disposed, how the operation is working. You're scanning in the operations, making sure there is no issues in the scan. Nobody's trying to modify that document. That's the responsibility of security teams to scan that and make sure nobody is doing tampering with that document. Make sense, everybody? Yes. Can somebody tell me, give me another example of SLC? Anybody? Hmm. Everybody awake?
I think system life cycle is that suppose you initiated a project, fine,
Mm-hmm.
and then it can be for the life of that project can be depending on the in the requirement and how can it will work. But suppose you started in 2005 and you say that by 2010 this will be replaced by some other system.
Mm-hmm.
So the system life cycle for that project is from 2005 to 2010. Fine. And after that,
Absolutely.
it will not be there. So that is called
Yes.
system life cycle. And then system development life cycle is like you started developing software. So you are following the SDLC process, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So that is your system development life cycle. So sometimes I get confused. It is software development life cycle or system development life cycle.
So that's a great point, right? So
Yeah,
you got a
yeah,
great point there, right? So you're saying system lifecycle is your project is going to start in 2026, and then you this is 2026, right?
yeah. So you
And
end
then your
in
project will finish in 2030.
yeah,
Okay, January 2030, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
that is basically your system life cycle is from January 2026 to January 2030. That
30.
is your
Yeah,
system life cycle. But
yeah,
what you will say is we'll start the project in 2026 January, and we will develop the project and deploy the project to production in 2026 2026
27, 28.
November.
Yeah. Okay.
2026 November, if you say, for example. So we will take 10 months to develop this project, okay, and deploy it to production. Those 10 months, 2026 January to 2026 October is 10 months. That's
Yeah.
called
SDLC.
SDLC, System Development Life Cycle. So the system development life cycle is 10 months. System life cycle is 4 years. Does that make sense, brother?
Yeah, yeah,
That's the
yeah,
difference
yeah.
between this.
But one thing, sometimes
Mm-hmm.
I read SDLC as also as software development life cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So that
Yes.
is different. That is different.
Yeah. System development is basically
Okay. Software development.
it's a software development itself. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Some people call it system and software is the same thing, right?
Yeah,
It,
yeah,
yeah, it is. But system life cycle is different.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Very good, folks. So system lifecycle again here we talked about is acceptance testing, disposal, and all those things will come into system lifecycle. Till disposal, it comes to system lifecycle. Like till 2030, it will once 3031 comes, lifecycle will be finished. Testing and application software, you can test the application software here. You can read through all this, folks. This is all just talking about testing application software, continue thoroughly how you can test all those things is right here. Making sure monitor vendor contracts and SLAs and everything, system procurement, how you procure the systems. This is important slides. Due to time, I think we're almost over with time. There are just few more slides. You can go over this software development and security, how you develop the software and security of the software, what kind of things you need to do, frequent packages, frequent patches, configuration, secure configuration baselines, and all that, those things. You can handling errors and exceptions. How do you handle exceptions, authorization, authentication to your applications, all those things are covered in development and security. Read through this. There are two types of development modules: waterfall and agile development module. You all know nobody uses waterfall anymore. Most of the companies are going through agile, and there is few more now new ones came up. development what is waterfall modules. You can see this, it's agile software development. You're just sprints, you are going on sprints, right? Nobody wants to take like 10 months to deploy to production anymore, so everybody wants fast and easy, fast fast fast, right? That's the agile mode. You can use it. References is the book here. And again, I'm going to give this put it in our chat, so you will all have access to this. Any questions, folks? Can you guys see my screen now? I'm going to stop sharing. Okay, that's good. So let me put today's homework and the material in the chat. I want everybody to download today's 5 questions, week 6, 5 questions. And again, folks, you guys are doing a great job with your questions. Keep continuing, and I want everybody, please make sure at least like 5 minutes, uh, 5 to 10 minutes, present your slides, homework, so that we all can benefit from it. This is the week 6 questions, and then I'm going to just put our today's presentations too, so that you can review the presentation as well. Chapter 6, security operations. Okay. So please download this, security operations and week 6 questions. Anybody have any other questions, comments, suggestions? Everybody good? Yeah, go ahead. So can you give example what kind of a policy that was, brother? Mm-hmm. Okay, okay, password rotation, right? Yeah, and then they change it to 12 months, right? Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. They were not. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah. That's a great question, right? So they have to basically, I'm pretty sure their IT team and security team collaborated, and they came up with some kind of a controls in place. So usually most of the companies, they have yearly password change policies. Once a year they do it. And yeah, if there is any breach or anything, then basically they have to work with that breach. Like if anybody is able to hack the password, then they will change back to 1 month or a daily basis later on, right? So, and then they need to basically look at the cost associated with that too, right? So there is certain things I'm pretty sure they considered it, and they thought, okay, this is okay for us. Their security team have basically did some gap analysis and system analysis, and may and then they might have approved to the college that okay, you can do it for once a year. I'm not sure, what were the circumstances and all that. But like you said, if there is a breach, then they might have to rethink the policy. And I'm pretty sure they have that into their considerations. If a breach happens, how we are going to handle it. I cannot say more on that. How their system works and what are the, you know, calculations they did on that. But there will be somebody will be accountable for that, no doubt about it. If breach happens, okay. Any other questions? No? Okay, then everybody have a great weekend.
The recording has stopped.
And if you have any questions, let me know. I will see you all next week.